Welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast. This is your host, Carla King, and do you believe it is the 20th episode of the Author Friendly Podcast, where I've been bringing you the people behind the products, tools, and services, all those companies that you use or you're thinking of using for your self-publishing journey. I really love talking with these people at writers' conferences and other events, and I know you'll gain a lot of insights from these people because, after all, they built these tools and they know a lot more about them than you do or I do, and they're always evolving. So it's really great to get them to probe more deeply into how these things will help you publish more successfully and more professionally. To take a look at the people who've been on the podcast so far, simply go to authorfriendly.com and please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. You'll also see a green bar at the top of the site where you can subscribe to get your free copy of the Consumer's Guide for Self-Publishers. What I'll really do is give you access to the web book. This list and my reviews of the companies change so often that I have given up trying to create just even an ebook out of it. It's a web book. So as soon as I find out something new about a company that I've reviewed, or when I find a new company, I just really quickly go over to the Consumer's Guide on the web and change it so that you can keep updated. So when you're ready to publish, don't forget to check the Consumer's Guide that one more time so that you know what you're getting into, all right? Really, also, I want to say that I only interview companies and people that I've heard good things about, that I've used, that I trust, that I know. So I'm not presenting any kind of smarmy vanity press folks who are trying to wring out that one last dollar from your account in your journey. There are some of those, and so we avoid those here. And if you look in the Consumer's Guide, you'll see who those companies are. I am very honest in my reviews. Okay, sorry about that long preamble. I just wanted to say all that, and thank you for listening to this episode 20. I hope you've been following along. I've really enjoyed your emails and your feedback, and I hope you keep them coming. So with that, let's move on to this week's guest.
Education and learning about the industry, because there are a lot of entities out there that are less than savory. And the more you know, education is just so powerful. It'll make you feel more confident with your decisions and how you go about things.
In this episode of the podcast, I talk with Rob Price. I've known Rob for a number of years, and he is the founder of Gatekeeper Press. We talk about pricing for the a la carte services that he provides, editing and design and formatting. We talk through the POD printing and the EPUB and the fixed layout EPUB process. And we go step by step through the entire journey of a self-publisher when they submit a manuscript to Gatekeeper. This is a good model. Whether you're using Gatekeeper or not, you'll find out how much time you'll need to spend on each part of the process and how much it costs. Rob was previously chairman of the Independent Book Publishers Association. I interviewed Angela Boll, the CEO of IBPA, a few podcast episodes back, so you might want to cross-check with that one. And so we talk about the evolution of hybrid authors and hybrid presses as well. You'll learn a lot of best practices. At the end, he gives us some really amazing takeaways that you'll benefit from during your self-publishing journey. So please enjoy my conversation with Gatekeeper Press's Rob Price. Hey, Rob, welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So why don't you give us a quick description of what your company does for authors to start with?
Sure. So Gatekeeper Press, we work with authors and publishers we're sort of a one-stop publishing service provider. So we work with a lot of authors who are self-publishing. We offer services ranging from editorial, editing, and proofreading to cover design, paperback, hardcover, ebook, production layout, and then distribution. So we make our books available for sale virtually everywhere, aggregate that. So we work with a lot of different retailers, and our authors or publishers, they retain 100% of their rights. They have 100% of the control over the process, and they earn 100% of the proceeds. So we charge an upfront payment for the services we do, but then we do not take any portion of the sales.
Great. And I have recommended you to several authors who are having trouble doing it yourself. And as you know, I'm kind of a DIY kind of gal, and I kind of like total control over my formatting and my distribution. And I like to play with distribution channels and go direct sometimes and not others. But there are a lot of authors out there. Maybe they have one book, a family book, a heritage book perhaps. And there are some authors who just want to, who have series, who just want to concentrate on writing and don't want to play with all of the do-it-yourself services. And those are the people that I send to you. So why don't we talk about this ebook and print book publishing and distribution services that you offer first and the costs surrounding those?
Sure. So all of our services are a la carte. So someone can come to us, for example, with their cover already designed, and they don't need our cover design service. So we do offer, we call it paperback layout and distribution, or hardcover layout and distribution. And then we also have ebook conversion and distribution.
And you have also the fixed layout ebook.
We do. Yes.
Wow.
So the ebook, we break that down in terms of cost for a what I would say normal reflowable ebook file, where the text and the font will change based on the e-reading device you have, the direction you're holding it in, so that it flows with the screen. And that's what most of the ebooks are, how they're mostly created. So what we do is we charge $400 for that service. And what that includes is taking the author's manuscript, creating ebook files that are compatible with all of the different e-retail outlets and e-reading devices. We assign it an ISBN.
If you want.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the answer to most questions that we get is yes, because we make ourselves very flexible. So the author is, of course, welcome to use their own ISBN if they do not have one or do not want to. We supply one. And then what you're driving at, I think, there is that a lot of times the author wants to come with their own ISBN because of the fear that otherwise the ISBN belongs to the publisher, and then if they want to go somewhere else, they can't take it with them.
That's true. Let me just address that just for a second, because this is most of the time when I'm recommending someone go talk to you is when they're talking to me about using a author solutions company like Trafford and Ex Libris and iUniverse, and I'm going, no, don't. That is too expensive. They trap your ISBN. It's hard to get out of their contract. There are full service options available, and you can stay free and flexible, and Gatekeeper Press is certainly one of those.
Yes, yeah, and we work with a lot of people who've come to us from those other entities, and we've heard a lot of things. But the ISBNs, if we were to provide an ISBN, we do not lock the author. The author can take, and we do not have a contract that fixes the author in with us at all. So an author could take the ISBN and then one day, 6 months later, a year later, whenever, and say, hey, we don't want you to distribute our book anymore. We're going to go take it and do it ourselves or do something else with it. And we say, okay, no problem. There's no, we just pull it from sale. But to answer your question, yes, an author can provide their own ISBN. And so for the service, the ebook conversion and distribution, the reflowable format, we charge a $400 fee, and that's flat. We don't charge extra if an author has a lot of photographs or images. And again, we create it. We work with the author to approve the files. The author has all the control. If they don't like the way something looks, we go back in. We do this by hand. We're not doing it just with some program. And upon approval, we then will broadcast this file and the information out to virtually everywhere ebooks are sold.
So you do the distribution as well, but what if I just want conversion? I can just pay you $400 and you'll give me an EPUB and a MOBI?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
You said yes again.
You'll see, you say that a lot. But yes, so the $400 is for ebook conversion and distribution, but you do not have to do the distribution part at all. And alternatively, if an author comes to us and they've already got their ebook created, their EPUB and MOBI file, or even just one of those, they can come to us, and we have a service we call ebook distribution only, which is a little less expensive. It's $250, and then we make that available to all of the different retail outlets as well.
On the print side, is that a similar cost? Or
the cost is a little different, but the process is very much the same. So for a paperback or a hardcover, We do the layout. We, again, work with you back and forth. We do everything to industry standards and to make it look as attractive as possible. The cost for us to do the layout and distribution is $1,000 if the final product ends up exceeding 200 pages. So once it's laid out and done and approved, we also charge an additional $1 per page for all pages beyond 200. So if a book is 300 pages, then they would owe an additional $100 at the end of that process.
Oh, got it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And again, the ISBN, if needed, is included. We help create that the front matter, the title pages, the copyright pages. We make sure all of that done properly. And our books are printed on demand to fulfill either the author's orders for themselves or their friends and family, or if they're taking us up on the distribution as well, then the books are printed on demand and shipped to customers through the retail outlets.
Okay. So I'm looking on your website, which is simply gatekeeperpress.com. And this is pretty well explained. And I'll just go down for the people who are in their cars or working out. Some other services and costs, you will create graphics for books like flowcharts and tables and stuff.
Yes, yeah. And we don't see that so often, but we do it and we offer it. And so if an author needs, like you said, a graph created and they provide us with the information that we need, then we can do that. Absolutely. And
it's $50 a graphic. So that's pretty reasonable, I think. And now I have my own imprint, Misadventures Media. So I'm seeing here that if you use your own publishing house name, it's $100. Unless I publish two or more books with you. So why is there that $100 charge to use my own publisher name? Is there extra work on your part to get that done?
Yes. So what we do by default, we publish the books under the name Gatekeeper Press. But like you said, if someone wants to use their own publisher imprint and they're just doing one book with us, then we charge a $100 fee to set that up. What we have to do is basically add your imprint. We get that set up on our end through our retailers. We have to get that set up. We work with, among others, Ingram and even in Bowker. So we have to make arrangements with these entities so that when we publish a book under that name, that it will display everywhere through all the retail outlets. Got it.
You don't have to set up a separate account. You probably just have to set up a separate imprint under Gatekeeper Press. Is that what happens?
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of a geeky, but for a lot of authors who know that I do recommend, doing it yourself and using Bowker Press. I mean, it's a hassle to go to the Bowker website and set up an ISBN and an imprint in your distribution company like Ingram. It's a lot of work. So I see why there's $100 charge. And so if I want to change and I want to do it myself, you have to go and take that off again.
Yes.
So it's work on both ends.
Yeah. It's what we do though. So it's not a really big deal, but I think you hit a good point that some of these things, that they can be done. Someone can go into their own Bowker account and do this or that. But a company like ours, some of the value that we offer is doing that otherwise tedious work because we do it all the time. So it's not, it's what we do. For example, we also offer copyright registration and Library of Congress registration, Library of Congress number registration. And both of those are things that anyone can do. But it takes the knowledge to go in and to do that. So we try. What we try to do is offer some of those miscellaneous services to just make it for the authors that they want to write, and we can do everything else.
Yes. Now, in my Self-Pub Bootcamp Guide for Authors, I did this thing where I thought, okay, I'm gonna see how much it costs to purchase my own books from each of these companies for print, right? And it was a fictional 200-page 6x9 book, right? I was amazed to find that you offered the lowest per book and ship costs of all of them. I just want to say that right up front. So what the heck? Now, why are you beating, those large names?
Well, part of it is they've increased some cost a little bit because when we tried to come in we've been around for about 4 years as Gatekeeper Press and try to come in very competitive on the price of printing books. So that we're lower, that's great. The way we're able to do that is that we have our own printer that we've worked with for about 17 years because Gatekeeper Press's origins actually came from a traditional publishing company that I ran. So, and that's how we were able to do everything we do with that infrastructure. So we've been working with this sort of a mom and pop print shop that's quality is superior to things like Ingram or CreateSpace or KDP now. And we're able to do it at a lower cost and with a lot of flexibility. So if we need to get books printed and shipped that day, we are often able to do that. So it really affords us a lot of flexibility.
Well, compliment them, please, because you're doing a very good job there.
I will.
Yeah. You also have a children's book option. I get a lot of queries from authors about how to produce those for says what, 500 for paperback or hardcover, which surprised me. With distribution is $500.
Yes, the price of our children's book options is one half. So we were saying it's $1,000 to do a paperback layout and distribution or hardcover layout and distribution for a non-children's book, anything else. But then we take it down to $500 because when we do a children's book, we are either doing the illustrations for the author because we do offer illustration services and we've got excellent illustrators on staff. So we will charge a fee per illustration we draw or, however we put it together. And then so the $500 paperback layout and distribution, what that fee covers is then to actually take the illustrations that we've done, overlay the text, illustrate the text in, and then do the distribution as well. So that's one of the ways we do a children's book. The other way is that we work with people who already come to us with their own illustrations drawn. So it's less work to put together a 32-page layout and then distribute that than it is a 200-page book. So that's why the cost there is lower. But otherwise, this service is exactly the same.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's great. And do you have a team of editors? Yeah,
well, we have a team. Everything is done in-house. We do have right now 4 editors on our team. And then depending on the genre or the category, we put that out to each one of them.
So I have my book. I have my book finished and it perhaps needs some editing. How long does it take when you get it in your hands to when it gets into the stores?
That's a really good question. So I'll walk you through as if you were signed up for most of our services. And
okay, great. Because the packages are around, like if I just said, okay, I just want a package, $2,600, take it away. But hold my hand through that.
Sure. And if I start becoming too verbose or taking too long, because I'll get into the details sometimes.
Just quick and dirty. We don't need to get into too many details.
Sure. So we offer 2 types of editing. We'll have a heavier developmental edit, which we do 2 rounds of edits, or we will do a line edit, like a proofread. If you were signing up for our developmental edit, what we say is it depends on your word count, but if you've got up to 100,000 words, we will have the first round turned back to you within 4 weeks. If you've got a very complex topic or something like this, it might take a little longer, but we'll say 4 weeks. If you sign up for our cover design, we're also working on your cover at the same time. We're doing those things simultaneously. You give us some ideas and we work with you, and then we start to put that into a design.
Let me just stop you real quick. So how many times do I get to change the cover and I can give you feedback on the cover? I know you don't want to go around 100 times with me on that. I mean, that's ridiculous.
we don't want to, but the thing is, we've changed this a little bit lately. That we now do. We say that if we're doing your cover, we're going to do it right for you or give you your money back. So we will do it unlimited edits.
Wow.
That until the book is published. Once the book is published and out there, and then you say, oh, okay, well, let's change this little thing. And then we do charge some small fees to correct that.
Okay.
But, so no, we will. And thankfully, most people don't go.
What's the average? 3-5 rounds? What?
Yeah, I don't even know what that would be. I bet 3 to 5 rounds. Yeah. Right. There are times we love when there's a time we just make the cover and say, wow, that is perfect. No changes. Most of the time we'll need a little tweaking here to get it right, but we will do that. We'll create as many as we need to. So we can work on the editing and the cover at the same time. The cover would normally take, we say 3 to 4 weeks that we'll have everything done. We'll do the front cover first. Once that's approved by the author, then we will go on to the back cover and the spine. We help our authors some pointers and tips on what sorts of information they would want to be displayed on the cover. Once the book is edited, so then we give that back to you. You review our edits, you go over everything, you ask questions, we go back and forth, and then you send that manuscript back to us. And then it'll usually take us about half the time, so maybe 2 weeks, sometimes less. And these numbers I'm throwing out are generally conservative. We often are able to go quicker. We don't like to make promises we can't keep, though. So about 2 more weeks, we go through it a second time, send it back to you again. You look through it, you send it back to us. So now we've got a complete, ready-to-go manuscript. And at that time, now we will begin doing the layout for the print edition, so paperback and a hardcover. We do a sample of a chapter or two for you first, so that you can make sure that you are completely happy with the way everything looks, the fonts used. Once you've approved the sample layout, then we go ahead and do the full layout. And again, we're sending, you're involved. And by the way, I've left out that we have our authors work one-on-one with what we call an author manager the entire way through. So you're working with one single person, a publishing professional, who is your point of contact to keep things efficient and keep things good and to answer all your questions by phone, and email is unlimited as needed. Once the full layout has been approved, at that point, we then work with the file we created there to create the ebook file, so that we can keep all of the formatting and all of the layout and design to look as close as possible to the paperback or hardcover edition. And again, the author is working, we're working hand in hand. We're showing you what we've done. You get to approve it or say make some edits. And then at the end of that process, once the ebook has been approved, now we're ready to make the book available for sale. And what we'll advise people is to set up for a pre-order period, so to push the publication date out. And this is something we would have discussed earlier in the process, so that the author can then begin to think about marketing and promotion while this book is listed for pre-order before the actual publication date.
That's smart. And just to interrupt, I mean, I interviewed Smashwords' Mark Coker a while back, and he said that on Smashwords and possibly everywhere, books that are on pre-order sell more, like 80% more than books that aren't when they launch. It's insane.
Yeah, and there's probably a few reasons for that. First and foremost would be that people who are putting it for pre-order, well, they've taken the time to think about that they want to have it for pre-order so that they can do marketing and put more effort into actually promoting the book instead of just sort of throwing it out there. But yeah, we see the same thing. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I didn't answer your actual question there, which was the time frame. So to do all of that, paperback, the hardcover, ebook, with the cover design and editing, this might not be the specific number that we have listed on our site, 'cause I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. But I would say within 8 to 10 weeks, certainly, if not much quicker than that, we would have a book ready to go to print in your hand, available for sale.
Couple 3 months. Great. That's nice. Yeah. So it's so funny because it's October 30th. We're near Christmas right now when we're talking, and I'm getting people asking me, "Oh, I have this book. Can I get it done for the holiday mark?" It's like, no, it's too late. You definitely need 3, maybe 4 months before the holiday or your Valentine's Day or whatever themed date that you want to target.
It's definitely better to give yourself and your publisher or service provider more time than you think you need, just in case. That time frame would include the developmental edit, which takes most of it, because we do have people that come in and we're still well within a time frame to get books otherwise out and done by the holidays. And we do also offer an expedited option too for people who really want to get it out. It's a fee of 50% more than we'd otherwise charge. It's not insignificant, but some people, they need to get the book out fast, and we have the ability to do that.
So what do most people do when they come to Gatekeeper? Most self-publishing authors, do they just get the whole package, or do they normally pick and choose? What trends are you seeing there?
We see that the most popular services that we sell, and we've put these into packages that you alluded to before, is that we see most people will do our cover design, paperback layout and distribution, and ebook conversion and distribution. And what that would mean, of course, is that they are coming to us already with their book, their manuscript edited. And if they don't, we really strongly encourage them, that's as important as anything else. I'm sure your audience is aware. But so that package, individually, those services would cost $2,400 combined, but the package we make it $2,200, and that tends to be what we see, generally speaking, the most popular.
Great. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
So now when it comes to distribution, I see Ingram on here and a lot of others. You have pretty wide distribution. Does it hit most of the countries in the world? Can you talk about that a little?
Yes, it does. Yeah. So on the print side, we go through Ingram. We have direct relationships with Amazon and Barnes and Noble, because sometimes if you just go through Ingram, if there's an issue that arises there for whatever reason, you don't want to have your book unavailable for sale on other places. So we work with all these different places, in part to get our authors the best prices and the highest payouts, but also to help avoid availability issues if they might arise, or anything else like that.
So Barnes and Noble, because it's the largest bookstore in the U.S. for brick and mortar store. Is that why?
Yes, correct. Yes, and so we do through these relationships, we make our books available for sale to the brick and mortar outlets. We do not have sales reps that actively go and try to sell our authors' books into those stores, but we can make them available if the demand is there, or if a bookstore is interested.
Right. So back to that. So we know that bookstores, brick and mortar bookstores, really don't want to buy your book unless they get that 55% discount. But most self-publishers are really, and most publishing companies also, really sell online the most. And so we give them a 30% discount, which is enough. Is that the standard 30% discount that you offer to the retailers?
Yes, it was for a while. We were doing 40%. We've all learned that 30% is sufficient. So they will earn as high payouts with us or higher than anywhere else, because again, we don't take any portion of that. So that's the print side. On the ebook side, it's a lot of the same. We have direct relationships with, I want to say 14, 15 different places that we sell through. And then many of those places then make the book available to many other places. So the book, it's virtually everywhere. And it's the same thing is true. The payouts, 100% of the payouts go to our authors, and the payout percentages differ depending on the venue. Amazon versus Apple or Google, they all have slightly different numbers.
Right. And so how often do your authors get paid?
We release the payments to our authors once a month.
That's great. Yeah. So what else can you tell me about Gatekeeper Press? I know, you said that you have been in the business for 17 years. Did you work at a traditional publishing company?
I did. It was one that I started myself, and that's how I led into Gatekeeper. I started as a self-published author about 17 years ago, and went through the experience. And it was, of course, an extremely different time than it is now with technology and print on demand and ebooks, and even online book selling was pretty new then. But so I sort of learned the ropes. I got my book picked up for distribution and got it put into bookstores and libraries, and we were on Amazon. And so from that experience, getting a book out, building that infrastructure to, working with editors and cover designer and everything like that. From that experience, I built a small traditional publishing company called Price World Publishing, which still exists now. But with Gatekeeper, Price World really is, we just do a couple books a year. But yes, it was traditional publishing where, as a publisher, we would take on all the costs. The author would earn a small royalty. And then as time went on and this technology was changing and the industry was changing, and seeing that we had this ability to produce books, to design, create, publish books and distribute them at a low cost with high quality, that we said, let's change the business model. And just now we'll work with authors who they keep all their rights, they keep all their proceeds, they keep all the control. We'll just offer our services at a fee instead. And so that's how Gatekeeper was born.
It's interesting that we talk a lot about the hybrid author, and you just made me think about the hybrid publisher, which you are. because you come from a traditional background and you have your own press and now you have your own self-publishing services company. It's really interesting.
Well, and that word too, hybrid publisher, is sort of being defined because it's also new in the industry. And I was affiliated with IBPA for a number of years. I was recently the chairman until just a few months ago. And so that was something we talked about a lot. What is a hybrid publisher? And maybe this is going off topic a little bit, but what we consider Gatekeeper Press to be, unlike these other author house companies, we want our authors to have full awareness, understand what's going on, full transparency. We consider Gatekeeper Press to really be a service provider versus, of course, not a traditional publisher, which is completely opposite. And then a hybrid publisher is where there's shared costs, shared control, and shared revenue, and a whole number of other things that IBPA has put out a wonderful list about. So, but we really are more the service provider.
Right. And I did talk with Angela Bull, and her podcast episode is up, and we talk a lot about the hybrid standards list that they have on the IBPA site, as well as that checklist for a professionally published book. And yes, it was great to have you at the helm of IBPA. I really encourage everyone to go out and get a membership. It's a great organization.
I do too. And we try to tell all of our authors to consider it. It's so much good information, so many opportunities there for...
It's definitely worth the fee. I think it's over $100, but you get a lot of bang for your buck there. So just out of curiosity, what kind of books do you write?
Well, you might not believe it because you've seen me in person, but back 17 years ago, I was a fitness buff. So I mean, I'm no longer a fitness buff. I wish I was, but I was in college, and I was that was sort of what I did with my free time was working out and lifting weights and all this. And to make a long story short, people would ask me questions about exercising and everything. So I one day just said, what if I make a little tiny workout program and print it out of my dorm room and put it on eBay and see what happens? And so I did that, and people bought this thing and they liked it, and it started getting good feedback. So I said, well, I'll make this thing a little longer. I'll kind of make this more professional. And next thing I know, over the next few months, I decided it was generating so many sales, surprisingly, that I said, I'm going to do some research on self-publishing. And so I went out and bought all of these books from, all the
Dan Pointer.
Dan Pointer, exactly.
Yeah, he was my guru too.
Oh yes, he was for me too. And so I read all these different books, and then I self-published a fitness book. So it was a weight training book. And from that that's what Price World Publishing predominantly did, was do fitness books.
Yeah, it's the same story with Self-Pub Bootcamp. I was a travel writer, and I self-published my books because I kept getting great feedback from publishers, and they said, no, it's too big, or they wanted me to change it. And so I created it, and then I became a self-publishing expert, and everybody asked me about it. And so I wrote a book so I could give it to people so they wouldn't ask me about it. And here it is, more than half of my business now.
Right, yeah.
It's a fun way to go about growing a business, for sure.
Yeah, in the nonfiction world, there's people who are just professionals or experts in their field. They can find a good market for their books.
Absolutely. You bring your platform with you, for sure. Yeah. Well, great. I don't know if you want to say anything else about Gatekeeper, but I do always like to ask for your best advice for self-publishers based on your experience. Well, so long now, 17 years, with what authors do right, do wrong. Do you have any words of wisdom?
I can say two things that have come to my mind. The first I mentioned earlier is, before you publish your book, have it looked at by a professional set of eyes, editing. That's so important. You've worked so hard on this thing, and you're going to put it out there for the world to see, and people can tell when something hasn't been edited, or at the very least proofread. So that's one very important point. The second is to start thinking about marketing and how you're going to sell your book long in advance of your book's publication date. That's something you want to start thinking about. And I'll throw in a third thing is to just, I think the people who are listening to this are already a step ahead of people because they're learning by listening to this podcast and listening to you, that education and learning about the industry, because there are a lot of entities out there that are less than savory. And the more you know, education is just so powerful. It'll make you feel more confident with your decisions and how you go about things. So,
well, great. Those are great tips. Thanks. 3, nice round number.
Yes, exactly.
Well, as always, it's great talking and learning with you, Rob. And I hope I see you at some IBPA or San Francisco Writers Conference related event sometime soon.
Yes, it's always great seeing you, Carla.
Thanks very much. Thanks for listening to the Author Friendly Podcast, and I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, go check out selfpubbootcampcourses.com and poke around. There are some free lessons for you in there. Have you got a suggestion for a guest or a company that you want to hear about? Go to selfpubbootcamp.com and hit the contact form and let me know. Until next week, this is Carla King signing off of the Author Friendly Podcast. Thanks.